Welcome to What's the Effort?
What the F?
I love that. I love the fact that it ended with a photo of you skydiving. That is actually amazing.
Well, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Can you let me know? Are we having feedback?
No, you sound good.
Okay, just bear with me. I'm going to turn it down just a tad. Yep. All right. Such an awesome intro. Thank you, Carlos. Oh, hi, Melissa, Vanessa. Oh my gosh, we've got people here. Julie, yay. Nice to see you guys. I'm sure you're not here to see me. I'm here. I know you're here to see Sam, but that's okay. It's all good. So welcome, everyone. Today, my guest is Sam Singh. And for those of you who don't know him, you're in for a freaking awesome treat. And those who do know him are here because they know him. And they're like, oh my God, she's got Sam. So thank you very much for coming on, Sam.
It's amazing to be here. I mean, you're someone that I've followed your journey for quite a while now, and seeing how you've formulated the podcast and you've evolved yourself as a human being, as an investor, and now as a freaking brand. When you reached out to me, I was like, it's not even a question. I'll drop whatever I'm doing. Just so you guys know, I got done on a 4-hour drive just to make it back here in time for this podcast.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so otherwise I'd be in LA right now hanging out, but I mean, this takes priority. So thank you for having me. It actually means a lot to me. It really does.
Well, then it's mutual because I had noticed you before we had met, but once we met, I was like, oh my God, I'm in the in this greatness. And you were speaking so many levels above me that I was like, okay, maybe one day I'll understand. And now I do. So not everything, but I have grown, and a lot of it has to do with you. And you've been so generous. If any of you have had a conversation, a heart to heart with Sam, you're super lucky because he's like Pace in that, it's sometimes really hard to get a hold of him, but when you do, he really gives you his time and his opinion, and he doesn't hold anything back, which is exactly what we would want. So I just want to say thank you so much. And okay, what the effie is going on? All right, thank you, Josh. So, Sam, I know that in case anyone doesn't know, you are obviously available online through a lot of sources, through IG and through YouTube. And you go by Arch Sam Singh. And I'm kind of curious as to why. Why do you do that?
That's a really good one. So this is going to be interesting. This is the first time I've ever actually talked about this. It is the first time I've ever talked about this. When I first got into this industry, I fell into the trap that everyone falls into, and that is being afraid or not certain of what to call yourself. And that's a different thing. That's a lot of people don't. It's if you've never done it before, it's weird, right? And in this industry, your brand is so critical. So, and I'm very conscious of the fact that I don't want to build anything that's not going to be timeless, and I don't want to build anything that's not going to be applicable or relevant a decade from now. And I don't want to be the guy who has to reinvent himself every 3 years. So that actually made it more difficult for me. It made it way more difficult. And I was aware of, like, you look at the greats in the industry. You look at Grant Cardone, who's one of the biggest names entrepreneurship has ever seen, and he's branded 10x everywhere. It is synonymous with him. Like, other gurus don't even use the term 10x anymore because they're like, they don't necessarily want to, kiss the ring, so to speak.
Right.
And he's gotten a monopoly on the term 10x. Pace, he's got sub 2. He's got creative financing down. It's synonymous with him. Jamil's got Astro. Steve Trang has one of my favorite terms in the world, and that's disruptor, and I kind of lovingly hate him for it.
That is pretty good, isn't it?
It's such a good one. I lovingly envy him for that one. And so for me, when it came down time to pick the name, like, well, one, just so you guys know, Sam Singh wasn't available. There's just some brown dude who's got it. He posted 0 times, made his account a decade ago, and absolutely Instagram will not give it to me. I've tried. I shot him a DM, which I know he did not see, and I offered him an obscene amount of money for it. And it's just there's no hope for it. So I was like, okay, great. I need to go and figure something out. And I wanted to be true to me. And this is going to sound so cheesy and tacky, but I think it's a part of me. And I looked at my entire life. I'm like, I've never had anything that's been consistent my whole life. I've actually lived a very inconsistent childhood. And the one thing that was consistent was the fact that I'm a gamer. And I've always played video games my whole life. And so if anyone that doesn't know, or if you're not a gamer, one, go play some video games and enrich your own life a little bit. But two, the one consistency throughout my entire adolescence was actually my gamer tag. And it was your username online. So when you go and play video games and talk crap to other people. And Arch was always the first part of that. So it was actually organic for me to come. And I'm so big picture destiny, visionary when I think of things. I'm like, when I'm a billionaire and I'm one of the biggest names in business, I don't necessarily care that it's Sam Singh on the billboards. I want to see Arch on the billboards. So fun fact, every single company I have is branded after Arch. And yeah, so everything that I do, my direct to seller business, my DTA, my lending side, certain things that we're going to do with an upcoming community, it's all branded after Arch. Wow. So yeah, lo and behold, guys, there's no magical, reason behind it. It's just what I used to, talk crap with when I played Halo 3 when I was 13.
So did you start your gaming name as Arch Sam Singh, or was that part of the requirement to be?
Arch was always the prefix. So there was always
for everyone.
For all of my gaming history, Arch was always the prefix.
Yeah, but did you choose it, or was it assigned?
Oh, no, it was me. And then eventually, this is something, okay, I've never talked about this. I've never talked about this either. I got really big in the gaming space in a game called Halo. And I was somewhat of a really good player at it, and eventually got to the point where my gaming kind of career got to some level of notoriety. And then there were copycats. And then so yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm like, I've had copycats. I haven't had a copycat in entrepreneurship yet, but I've had them in gaming. So yeah, and you know what? It's one of those things where one of my mentors, he always tells me, he's like, when you're a billionaire, when you've conquered the world, when you've done whatever you've wanted to do, what are you going to do with your free time? Because that's the stuff that you actually want to do with your life. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to be a billionaire and I'm going to have a mansion. And I'm just going to game all day. I'm going to game with my kid brothers, and I'm just going to have my friends over, and we're just going to play video games. It's just in a nicer house. And then, so he was just like, take that with you throughout your entire journey. Mm-hmm. And then it's also a cool reminder for me that no matter what we do, no matter what's on my Instagram, no matter how much we go heavy into business and scaling and making millions, that at the end of the day, I'm still at heart just a kid who wants to hang out with his little brothers and play video games.
That is so cool. That is so cool. How old were you when you were a gamer? When you started, and then when you kind of?
Oh, I've been gaming my whole life, but
What does that mean, your whole life? How old were you when you started?
Oh, probably like 1 year old. You got to remember, I am part of the generation that has lived with video gaming since day one, right? So I was raised on video games, and I think I was the last generation that had games before online gaming was a thing. So that was
interesting. I remember that time.
Exactly. So I grew up on the Nintendo 64 era. That was a big thing for me. And then coming into my young youth is that Halo came out. And for me, Halo is like the greatest thing ever. So it's probably at least one or two gamers here. Halo's the best thing ever. And it's so to this point, it's total tangent. Ryan, oh, sorry, go for it.
No, you go.
Okay. Ryan Pineda has this amazing thing. He has this amazing idea, and I actually did not like it in the beginning. I thought it was kind of silly, and I thought it was goofy, and I'm like, there's no way it's going to take off. And he has this thing where he charges people, at the time it was like $5,000 to go and spend a day with him playing golf. And the reality is, you're using golf as a backdrop to masterminding and getting some mentorship and whatnot. And then I'm like, there's no way people would do that. And this was back when Ryan Pineda, it was a half or a quarter of the following he's at now. And then, if I remember correctly, at that price point, he did over $1 million in his first year in golfing, which means he actually made more money golfing than the majority of professional golf players in the world. And
Gosh.
so this is a passion project. It's going to come later. And it's that when I have a little bit more liquid, bandwidth, I have my time back a little bit. It's done. I put out this one story. We track the metrics on it, and it is my most engaged piece of media I've ever put out, which is stupid. I've put out tons of things about, like, here's how you go make 50 grand, 250,000. Like, here's your 6-figure month, just giving away my business. The one thing that trumped everything else was me announcing that I want to do gaming with Sam. And it's because I have all of these people, like you mentioned, who, I am notoriously hard to get a hold of.
Yeah.
And there's an intention behind that. I can't serve mankind if I'm spending all my time talking to one man. And right. By the way, that sounds so cheesy. That was actually taught to me by Laura Morby. And that was a very, very special thing. And so to that point, I'm like, how do I give back? And how do I help people? And how do I not be a total jerk and still, like, enjoy myself and get a return on it? And I'm like, okay, I will gladly give to everybody, but you got to do it on my terms.
Good.
And then, so what I'm going to do is, I'm like, okay, cool. If that guy can make multiple 7 figures, by the way, he raised prices and he's still getting the same traffic, which is insane to me. So he's probably going to be doing 8 figures in the next 12 months doing just golfing. And I'm like, okay, if he can do that, I can go make more money gaming than 99% of professional gamers out there. And once I do that, like, oh, I'm winning at life. But wow. Yeah, super long tangent, but I had to share that.
That is so cool. That is so cool. It's interesting. What about when you were little and you were playing games? Tell us a bit more about your early years. I find it hard to believe you were playing at 1 year. Come on now. But still, I will allow it to stand for the moment. But tell me about your parents. Like, what was the home environment? Were you competing against, do you have siblings? What did they think of you playing games at a very early age?
Yeah, so I was all my brothers. So it's me. I'm the second child. There are 4 boys total. And we were all raised by an immigrant single mother who came to the States at 16 on an arranged marriage to an unfortunately abusive human being. And she did what is, a cultural cardinal sin. Mm-hmm. And that is to basically tell that guy to F off, and left him. And then that meant that as a teenager with, at the time, my older brother, a baby, she had nothing. She had nothing at all. And so she was disowned for a amount of time.
Born in the States?
What was that?
Were all your siblings born in the States?
So in our early formative years, my older brother, who's about 4 years older than me, we grew up we had times where we were in a shelter. We grew up on Section 8 food stamps, welfare, like the whole 9. And it was pretty much throughout the ghettos, a lot of it in California. And I'm still here to this day. We're just not in a ghetto anymore, thank God. But no, a lot of the childhood was basically the kind of tried and true story of adolescents in poverty who pretty much only have each other. And what that meant for me is, not having mom around too much, because she had to work. She had to pay bills, right? So she made all the sacrifices that she could to provide, which means what? Me and my older brother pretty much had to raise ourselves a little bit.
Right.
And that being said, it's funny. A lot of people hate on gaming. I think that, and Effie, we can probably dive into this a little bit later, but a little bit of my backstory about what I did before I got into real estate. And that industry has taught me one critical thing about adolescence. And it is at the most dangerous time in any youth's day is 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And that is because it is their unsupervised hours after school and mom and dad aren't off of work yet.
Right.
And that's the time where they are susceptible to gang recruitment, delinquent activities, building habits, because there's just no one there to watch them. And at that age, especially for teenagers, we tend to lack critical thinking and like rational thought. So we do stupid shit. Um, Fortunately for me, I know a lot of parents tend to not like gaming too much. I'm like, get your kids on video games, get them on there and get them off the freaking streets. Because in the neighborhood that I was living in, that we grew up in, because we did grow up in the ghetto, man, I always had an excitement to end school, run back home, and get on Halo. And like, that is maybe not the best thing. It's a shooter game, you're killing people, sure. But it's better than hanging out on the streets and getting recruited by like the notorious street gangs that are always out there looking for youth.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. For sure.
honestly,
For sure. Yeah.
it's one of those things where I think a lot of people, when they're raised in poverty and they've got adversity in their life, they kind of look at it as, and maybe it's a chip on their shoulder a little bit. To me, I don't know, maybe I think it's because my mother did such an amazing job providing. We wanted for nothing. Like,
I'd like to talk a little bit more about your mom. You know, for her to have to come over and, you know, through an arranged marriage, it must have been pretty scary. I know I was in a similar boat where my dad took me back to Greece for an arranged marriage, and I was scared shitless. Anyhow, fortunately, it didn't happen. But, you know, for her to leave her country and come here and then have to stand up for herself and have
yeah.
4 little boys, was she speaking English at that time? And how long did it
So
take, you know, before the social services gave her enough support so that she could start to work? And how did she provide for you? That
yeah,
woman, you know, sorry, Sam, I want some light on her.
no, you're totally fine. I'm so glad you pinned Richard Knowles. I actually I spoke at one of his event maybe about 2.5 months ago, maybe 3 months ago, and then I had this portion where I talked about her, and then I realized, because the following 2 hours of meet and greet, no one cared about me. Everybody just wanted to come and talk to me about her. Like, where is she? Is she here? Can we talk to her? Can we meet her? It was the best. Every woman who came to me like resonated not with me but with her. And I was like, okay, great. So next time I gotta bring mom out to the next event, because she's the star of the show. Like, I'm just opening. I'm an opening act. But no, so I love these questions. These are fantastic. There is a substantial age difference between myself and my older brother and our two younger brothers. So my older brother is 4 years older than me, and there is an 11-year age gap between me and the third sibling, and his name's Ron. So he's amazing. He's all of what it means to be a 16-year-old. And then the youngest one, John, is, you know, when they say that your kids are like you, and they'll remind you of the things that you don't see in yourself, and because you don't get to see it, right? And then you meet them. John reminds me of everything that's wrong with me, and I'm just like, everything that's bad about me. I'm like, okay, great. Now we know what we need to work on. There's an 11-year age gap, so our mom focused heavily, for the longest time. It was just me and my older brother, and her sole mission was to make sure that we had a roof on our heads, and that bills were paid, and that we stayed in school, and that the second that we were out of school, we were back home, and we were going to go to college. And because she's Asian, we're going to be doctors. I mean, that's effectively it. That's
So
the
your
only.
mother is Asian?
Yes. So it's the only viable outcome for a young man in any typical Asian culture. It's either you're going to be a doctor, an attorney, an engineer. For me, because she liked that I had spunk, she was like, "Oh, you can maybe be a police officer one day," because I liked, like, fighting.
Wow.
But she worked tooth and nail doing whatever she could. And to your point, when she came here, like, no, she could barely speak the language. She couldn't read or write it, and effectively write it. It was not a trained skill, because you need that in your formative academic years. When you come here at 16 and you're not in school, you are in an arranged marriage, you leave that marriage, now you have to work. So you don't have the time to ever develop those skill sets or learn them. Unless you're learning them on the job, they're not going to happen.
Right.
And the reality is, as an immigrant who's coming to the States, she didn't truly have any viable skill sets to make herself competitive. So she took menial jobs and did manual labor and did a lot of risky things to be able to pay the bills. And that's the most that she could do. And unfortunately, it kind of, I've realized this and I've seen this because I've done so much work with victims of abuse and victims of, especially of cultural issues, right? I want to be culturally sensitive, but the reality is there's cultures where their norms and their tendencies are not copacetic with Western civilization. And what ends up happening is we have women who are battered and they're hurt. And it's interesting seeing this now looking back, right? Because I didn't see this when I grew up. I can see this all now looking back. A lot of the things that came up prevented her from being able to achieve the next level, being able to grow. And it ends up being this death cycle, right? This ridiculous kill cycle. And it's about in the ghetto. There's a cycle in the ghetto. There's the hood. Like people always say that, like there is an economic ecosystem to the hood that is meant to force you to grow just enough till you can learn the skill sets to be a viable human being in that ecosystem, but not enough. You don't have enough free time to gain enough skill sets to get out of it.
Right.
And then this kill cycle is what keeps people in. This is what's traumatizing, and what is when unfortunately young women were coming to this country.
Yeah.
And but the good thing is this. The saving grace is that she did such a fantastic job instilling the fear of God into us that if we ever did anything wrong, like our lives would be over. To the point where my older brother was the first in the history of the family to ever go to college, which was fantastic for him. And I was the first ever to go and get a graduate degree. So I went even further, and now she's had a really
for a master's.
What was that?
Did you go for a master's?
Yeah, I've got a master's degree.
What's
And
it?
then I was exploring the idea of going PhD, but at that point I was like, I'm done reading books.
Yeah,
Like,
it's very academic.
oh yeah. And once you can't do 10 years or 8 years of just theses after another. It's brutal.
Yeah, I know.
So we just lost Effie.
What? You lost me?
Your video, I can hear you. Your video's gone. Okay, well, I'm just gonna keep going. Yeah, your video's completely gone right now. Do you guys see her?
Guys, can you please tell me whether you can see me? Can you see me? Oh, Tigger says she sees me. Joel says I'm fine. Joel, okay. Sam, I think it's on your end. Maggie says she sees me. Sam is frozen. Oh.
Is it me?
Yeah. And Melissa says we can see you both. Is Sam able to, I see Effie. Okay, do you guys see both of us?
Can you guys see me? Can you see me right now?
Yes, of course I can. Yes, I can.
Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good.
Stream is working. Oh, guys, yeah, looks to me. Okay, yeah, Tigger said you were frozen. You might want to hop over to, you might want to hop over to YouTube. I don't know what to say. I'm going to blame it on YouTube or Sam, but I can hear Sam and I'm enjoying it.
It's totally me, guys. It's totally me. I am reckless. But yeah, so I mean, all of that to say, I'm glad we're back, and let us know if like that happens again on your guys' end. She did an amazing job. She did an amazing job moving the needle as much as she had to. And one thing that I look at is she was a martyr for breaking generational curses, and that's not something that people realize. Like this is something that was instilled in me by someone that I greatly admire in this space. And this person wants to build. Everyone wants to build generational wealth, right? It's a buzzword. The reality of building generational wealth is you have to break generational curses, and that shit is hard. Why? Because you're fighting your own genetic wiring sometimes. And we look at the things that we look at our natural tendencies that we actually just genetically get from our parents. We have predispositions based on how they live their lives, how they act, their attitudes, all these things. Don't believe me? Look at your kids. I swear to you, they are mirrors of you sometimes. I look at Ron and I'm like, Ron, you're a saint. I have no idea where the heck you came from. And
Oh no, I get it. I get it. But I
but
grew up fighting my background, so I was aware of it at a very young age. I
and
mean,
that's the thing, right? Like awareness is always step one to being able to like conquer anything. The reality is most of us don't even we're either never aware of our predispositions, we're never aware of, like, here's a very interesting thing, guys. Whenever you guys are upset about in life and you find yourself being like, I just went from 0 to 25 in 10 seconds, just know, I want you to question that. Like, don't question what made you mad. You know what made you mad. It's your husband. He didn't put the dishes away, whatever the hell it is. That's irrelevant. What I want you to do in this, I've done this so many times and it's been so enlightening for me, is think to your past and think to your childhood and then see if you remember your parent lashing out the same way that you just did.
mhm.
And then what you'll constantly find is yes. And we get these tendencies, we get these traits. And so, as much as I adore and love her, she's had to unfortunately become a martyr for us to break curses and break the cycle. And it sucks because I would have much rather she be the one that have done it and she be the one that reaps the benefits of it earlier in her life. She's reaping the benefits of it now, but it's through us.
Well, that's good though. That's good because I felt the same way about my mom. I wanted her to benefit from being in Canada, and she never did. And she passed away still being an abused woman at 86. My dad was still hitting her and throwing her around the room, when she was 86. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was ready to just, lose it. And I had always wanted her to outlive him so she wouldn't have been in prison her whole life. But it's not always meant. But, what can we do?
Well,
I'm glad that your mom is able to be free now and to see her kids doing so well. I think that's awesome. That's super.
oh, she freaking hates it. She absolutely hates it. She won't take it. She won't calm down. She won't stop working. And this is the interesting thing that I'm navigating now, right? It's that there are people who are workaholics, right?
Mhm.
And then there are people who are, it is so ingrained through their culture, their backgrounds, their heritage, that you just work, that their happiness, sometimes their sense of purpose is tied to work. And now what we're trying to do is we're trying to have this really kind of interesting, let's call it a social experiment or psychological experiment. We're trying to see how can we rewire purpose and how can we rewire happiness and disassociate it with just menial labor, right?
Right.
Because what we've found is that when she's at a job, even if it's a minimum wage job and it's so beneath her, that she actually feels more fulfilled. So we're
Wow.
like, okay, mom, you've worked your ass off. You've sacrificed so much. You deserve the world. Like, what can we do? And then she doesn't want a big house. She doesn't want a Maserati. She doesn't want a trip to Hawaii. She just wants to be doing something. So this is the next experiment that we're trying to solve. But one thing that I'm really glad that you mentioned is just understanding the importance and the significance that they went through that. It's something that I'm a big advocate for. Is I think right now we are in the greatest, most developed country in the history of all mankind. We have access to more resources and anything that we've ever had. And the reality is there's so much sacrifice that has gone into that. And yes, I'm talking about the founding fathers, and yes, I'm talking about veterans who've served and soldiers who've given their lives and all the things that have gone into that. But I'm also talking about your immediate family.
Mhm.
So your mother had to endure a lot of sacrifice and a lot of suffering just to live her life and to be able to give you the opportunity to be where you're at right now.
Right.
And mine has as well. She's basically sacrificed everything that she can for as long as she can. And for me, it is so critical for me to remember that and remind myself of it. And also, every time I meet anyone who's raised by a single mother, especially a man, like I'm very traditional in my values. So women, please don't hate me for this. But whenever it's a guy and he's a young guy, usually around my age, and I find out that he's raised by a single mom, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you need to move 10 times harder. Like, your mother or your father, right? Single dads, great guys. Um, Tremendous sacrifice went for you to be here and for you to live life in this whimsidaisical kind of nature and not, I'm sorry, my mother didn't come to America for me to work a 9 to 5 and to have a 401k and to have enough funds at retire at 55. She did not do all for me to live a mediocre life and for me to even entertain that idea. And there's times where we all have anxiety and we feel pressure, and like entrepreneurship is so freaking hard that you want to cower away from it. To me, it's actually empowering to remind myself, like, if she can do all that she did, I can figure out how to get my business to another 10 grand a month.
Good job.
Um,
Good job.
and it's I say this, and it's like calling people to a higher purpose, and that purpose isn't building a legacy for yourself. It's actually building a legacy to pay back those who've sacrificed for you.
Well, yeah, I think we do have to look at our backgrounds and we have to take the best that we can from it. And when you have someone like your mom and my mom, you owe her. And if you see it as a privilege to go ahead and aspire to be really the best that you can be instead of just settling, then I think they would probably, should be happy. I mean, my mom's not around to tell me, but I would hope that your mom is happy that you're not just taking the master's and doing a 9 to 5 job, but doing your thing and trying to make it really big, which I think is awesome. I think that's very, very wonderful.
Well, it's one of those beautiful things where I think in entrepreneurship we make it about the money, and the money matters. The money matters, and this is something that I've really kind of come to learn, and I think this is the next evolution in me as a human being, and not as an entrepreneur, but as a human being, is understanding that money matters. It does.
Absolutely.
It's the lifeblood of everything that happens around us. But the relentless pursuit of money with no application of what to do with that money after the fact is disgusting. It is in
Dangerous.
my opinion, it is an immediate disrespect to all who've sacrificed for you. And this all led to me having this grand epiphany that none of it matters if it's hoarded. None of it matters if all it does is supports yourself. And so I'm getting back to some of my roots in my early career industry, which is being obsessed with making as much damn money as possible so that I can fund the biggest humanitarian philanthropic projects that I can. And this is
Wow.
another thing, right? We talk about like I'm gonna speak for my own mother here, but I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. My mom didn't go through all that she's gone through just for me to, hell, even have a business and make 1 million and give my kids a good life. That's not enough.
Yeah.
I have potentially repaid a quarter of my debt to her once I'm a billionaire, and I've freed countless women who are under the same shackles right now that she was once under.
Isn't
Like
that
at
it?
that point, I think I've paid back a quarter of the debt,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm here for. And
Yeah.
so you know this about me. I have two core goals in entrepreneurship. And like these are the things that I want to do outside of playing video games and tennis and hanging out with my kid bros is use the billions, create the greatest animal sanctuary that has ever existed. I'm probably going to try to see, I'm probably going to try to work out a deal with the US government and buy out the entire state of Wyoming and kick out all 12 people that live there. It's not that many people. Evict all 12 of them and turn it into the greatest sanctuary that's ever existed for all animals. And the second thing that I want to do with my amazing billions is go full fledged freaking Batman mode and create a merc team and go and combat cartels and human trafficking rings and extremist organizations it's all the things that I wanted to do as a kid. But, you know, back then my thought process was the best way I can do that is by becoming a soldier.
Mhm.
Well, the fun thing is becoming an entrepreneur, you start understanding that the more money you make, the more resources that you have, the more connections you have. Reality, all that translates to is more lives you can save.
Right.
So there's a really, really, really cool metric, right? I'm big on business. I'm sure we'll talk about scaling businesses. I don't really get to geek out on the motivational stuff because normally I come on and people are like, "Tell me how you made yada yada yada," and all this kind of stuff.
I love the
Um,
fact that you've jumped from where you came from and how this affected you and gave you direction to where you want to go.
I
So
mean, and
we
that's
will
it.
touch on how you're going to get there, but it is very inspiring because isn't that what the human condition when you can do your best is all about? I mean, for me personally, Sam, it's not that different a story. I could choose to just retire and not work and just, I love gardening, so have a garden. But I am on fire because I have a mission. I have a reason to want to change the world because of what had happened to me. So that's kind of interesting. What is this comment? Effie, you're so tech savvy. Hey,
I agree. I
that's
this is
what I'm talking about, girl.
this is fantastic. And you know what's amazing is that you a year ago, I think probably the idea of running a podcast maybe a year or 2 years ago for you was probably not in the cards at all. And look at you now. Like this is actually fantastic.
Oh,
Um, but you're absolutely right. I think it's one of those really interesting things where one of the greatest human beings that I love to death, he's one of my best friends on earth. His name is Marlon Johnson. Marlon is a brother to me, and he keeps my head on straight, and he's an amazing, amazing soul. And he and I have this agreement that your life as an entrepreneur actually starts when you realize that none of this is about you or for you. The
that's right.
second that you realize that, I know a lot of people who they're young, they get into this industry, they want to make money. And then what ends up happening is they run into this invisible wall of motivation they can't break through. It's like I'm doing the things and it's like it's making good money and I made 50 grand this month and it's like but getting to $1 million is actually difficult. Fun fact, if you guys didn't know this, I think it's like what 94% of businesses will never make $1 million ever. And then like 0.4% will make 10 million ever. Like it is astronomically difficult to hit those numbers. And the reason why is tactics can only get you so far, right? The tactical side of business can only get you so damn far. And when I see these young guys run into these kind of invisible walls, like I ask them like what their life looks like. And they're, they have a good life and their parents have provided so well for them. And there's not a lot of hardship in their life right now. And then what that tells me is, I'm sorry, comfortability creates complacency, and complacency will kill you in the game of motivation.
Mhm.
And so, one thing about them, and I always tell them, it's like, go find someone else to fight for. Because right now you're fighting for your own bank account and it's not going to motivate you. It's why we look at the military. I love studying military complexes because they're phenomenal at showing you how to build a team the right way. Phenomenal. They're the best. Um, and you can ask any soldier who's ever seen combat. When they're in the trenches, literally or figuratively, they don't fight for themselves. They don't even fight for the family back home. Who did they always say they fight for one person, and it's the guy right next to him. It's
Yep.
making sure my brother right next to me gets back home.
Right.
And so when I meet all these, newer entrepreneurs, if you guys are listening and you're struggling with motivation, you're struggling with like, I know I need to do the things and I've got 10 hours a day to do it and I'm just not doing it. I can almost guarantee you your purpose and your reason for why is probably not as strong as you think it is. And then once you start realizing, Effie, to your point, you've had to you've had an extremely unfortunate past and things that have happened to you. But the positive side of that is that you're also aware that these are conditions that are plaguing tens, if not hundreds of millions of women worldwide. And
Right.
the second that it stops going from this is about fixing my traumas to living so abundantly and gaining abundantly so that I can give abundantly. This goes about how can we combat the traumas of 100 million women? And
Totally.
then when you start thinking like that, you become immovable.
I agree.
You,
I agree because, I feel like I didn't survive for nothing. I didn't survive to just chill. I'm very, very driven, and I'm so happy to be where I am, where I feel like I have the tools, I have the opportunity, and I'm meeting people who are like-minded. That it's like, if you want to help me, fantastic. I want to help you too. Let's go. If you don't, get out of my way. Get out of my way right now. So yeah, I agree. The why is very, very important, and for me, it can't be material things. I mean, how many clothes or, how many, whatever, cars or whatever you might want. I've lived in the big house. I've been there, done that, and money comes and money goes. But if you can fight for a cause and actually affect change, like, you know, um, Mr. Pace has said, then you don't mind when you die. It's interesting when Pace asked me once, "What do you want?" And I said, we were at the mastermind, and I said, "I want to die." And he just went, "Ah." And I said, "Wait a minute," with a smile on my face. I want to die with a smile on my face because I've done and participated in what I want to do. And it's, a lot of people might say, "Why work that hard?" But that's what I want to do. So I think that putting the money to good use and not thinking that it should be left just for one generation is much better. I think that. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see that, you've gone as far as you can have so far with the strength of a woman, a mom behind you. So
yeah, and
I want to redirect this just a little bit because I know that there are some people that came here specifically to find out about what are you doing now? Because I see your goal, and I'm right with you. But talk to us about your DTA, your lending, and the other things that you've got going on now, and how are you anticipating to get that, to that point?
oh yeah, all the stuff that's going to pay for the Bat Cave. I know the Batmobile is expensive.
I
I know. I have the price sheet and everything ready to go. So yeah, let's get into the business stuff. So I actually got into this industry a little less than 2 years ago, and I graduated grad school, and I was in a totally different industry, and I was an extremely high performer there. But I understood that I wasn't moving the needle the way that I wanted it to, and it wasn't going to allow me to live the life that I wanted to long term, right? Because I understand that I want to have a full family. I want to have a traditional nuclear family because I didn't have a nuclear family when I was growing up, right? I had a very broken, kind of fragmented household. And knowing that,
You mean you want to be
thinking,
a dad with a
oh,
mom?
I am one little tangent. I am so unbelievably excited and terrified of being a father one day. Simultaneously, I
Why?
am,
You're terrified. You're going to be a great father.
I, I think so too, and I hope so. But it's one of those things where that is the greatest responsibility that will ever have been bestowed on me, and that is
Yes.
something that I am trying to see if I can be ready for when the time comes. And we're never going to be ready. I know that. I get it, but God, that scares me. And if it's a girl, I'm done. I quit. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm going to do because
What?
I've had boys around me the entire time. So it's like I don't know how to raise. I don't know how to raise a girl.
Uh,
Um,
if you have
but
a daughter, she's going to be daddy's little girl.
oh, absolutely,
I see that with
absolutely.
my granddaughter and her dad, and she just already has him wrapped around her finger, but she loves her daddy. I mean, she loves her mommy too, but the relationship between them, oh my God, it's just
Oh
incredible.
yeah, absolutely. It's going to be difficult, right? Having to convince her that boys don't exist and keep her under lock and key. But okay, so I graduated grad school a little underneath 2 years ago, and I was I never hear anyone else say this, and I've been saying it intentionally, hoping someone would pick it up, and no one does it. But I've been saying I was broke as a joke. And to me, that's clever, but no one picks it up, whatever. So I was extremely broke. I had no money. And then, and this was during like the COVID shutdowns and industry was shut. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's actually figure out how to make some damn money so we can do some cool stuff. And then I went and found YouTube University, and then, we did the age-old thing. We're like, okay, cool. Real estate's a thing, and people make money in it. And then I thought it'd be easy, which real estate is very much not easy at all. At all. I had it's a blessing from God that the first mentorship that I found myself in was by Mr. Pace Morby. And he was the first ever mentor in this space that I came into. And he showed me so much in such a short time that it would have been asinine for me not to succeed. So I came in, I understood really quickly because of the clarity that he was able to give me and everyone around us. It's like, your avatar is a closer. I'm like, great, let's get on the phone and close people. And I pounded the phones typically about 8 to 10 hours a day, just going for closes, calling other people's leads all the time for free because I couldn't afford anything. And in my very 4th month of real estate, this is braggadocious, and I want to say it because I want people to understand that it's actually a possibility and it's actually real. Looking back at it, it probably could have happened sooner. In my 4th month of real estate ever, my 4th month of business, we did our first 6-figure month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we did, in that month, it was $121,250. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that number. I have the check here somewhere. I'd like scribble on it nowadays. But that was really cool. I did my first ever 6-figure month, and I'm like, cool, now I know how to make it.
4 months. And was it through wholesaling or what?
It was wholesaling. And at the time, technically, there was a big wholesale in there as well. But that was a different market, guys. That was a different economy. Why? Hedge funds. I got lucky. The reality, guys, is I got a little bit lucky. But it forced me to figure out that I needed more answers. I'm like, great, I went and made a stupid amount of money in a very short amount of time. And I need to make sure that I can go do it again and again and again, because I did this. I was sitting, it was one of the most insane moments of my life. There's several deals there, and the largest check from that read $32,500.
Nice.
And that was more than like my mother had ever made in a year of her life, right? It was a very weird thing. And I have that somewhere here too. I have no idea where it's at. And I looked at it.
You're not just leaving it there.
I cashed it, and then I scribbled all over it. And I looked at it, and I was elated for all of 7.5 seconds. And then that was when it dawned on me that it's just numbers on a piece of paper. It's numbers on a screen. And then I quickly realized, wow, the money came into my life that fast. Like, I 20 something years of no money ever. And then all of a sudden, that quick, all of this money here that put me above 90% of Americans. It was scary. And I realized this is not predictable. It's not sustainable. I can't repeat it. I can't guarantee it. So what did I do? Did what smart people do. And I went and started looking for mentors who've done 6 figures a month, 7 figures a month, and go and see how can we do this again and again and again and again.
Very good. I'm really glad you brought it to this, because I wanted to talk to you about that. How you get in the right rooms with the right people, because that was one of the things that you had spoken to me about early on. And, you were saying all these names, and I was like, who's Kent Clothier? Wait, Tiffany and Josh who? What? Who's Alex? I didn't know any of them. And I was like, what's he talking about? So how did you decide that? So you came into a large payday, and you decided, since it's unreliable and not predictable, you need to go and get guidance on how to keep it going.
Yep. How to keep it going and how to keep doing it again, right? How to do it with certainty. So the only reason that, like, a lot of people are like, Sam, how that, like, no one has that perspective that young to do that when they see that money, right?
Yeah.
The only reason that I had it is because mentorship has been a huge part of my life. And this is funny. One of my buddies who's a very like a psychological nerd, she thinks that it's like, Sam, you never had a dad, so you go look for male role models, and that's a big thing for you. And it's a complex. I'm like, okay, cool, that's interesting. So it's very potentially viable, right? It's a very viable thing. My first great mentor was actually, we didn't talk about this, but I was a collegiate athlete. I was a collegiate tennis player. And my coach at the time was one of the most pivotal male role models in my life. And so I knew, like, every stage of my life where I had an evolution of myself as a human being, there was a mentor attached to it. And then I'm like, okay, I am not ready to make 121 grand in 30 days. Like, it was great, but I'm not ready to do it. I'm not ready to repeat it right now. But guess what? If I find the right person, I can be ready again. And I did something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And I think it's actually the smartest thing you can do. Like, people invest in I'm stealing this from one of my other great role models. His name's Alex Hermosi. He says, people.
Now, I know who he is now, and I follow him.
Oh, beautiful. That's a buff business Jesus is what I call him. People invest in the S&P 500 because it's got a 10%, return over an egregious amount of time. And he says there's an infinite ROI on the S&P 500. And it's that people will go and invest one time in one mentorship, and they think they're okay. And they think that's it. I'm in one community, and it's a great community. It's an amazing, it's everybody in there, and that's it. Well, the reality is every room has a ceiling. And once you realize that you were in the top 10% of any room, you need to find a bigger damn room, or you're going to stay where you're at. And so I very easily confronted that. It's been a condition in my life, right? A conditioned response to go find a mentor. And then I decided that another cool thing, my first entire year of doing this business, we closed 57 deals in my first 12 months of real estate. I took zero profit on that. All of the income was spent getting into further masterminds.
Oh,
all of it.
Okay. Well, wait, what did you live off of?
Oh, I lived off of I had enough of a little bit of a savings nest egg just to kind of, and I lived like a broke college student because I was a broke college student. I just sustained that. The only 2 times that I took money out of the business was when my dog had a surgery that needed to be paid for. Outside of that, like, I lived like a broke college kid, and that's all I did. All of the money, all of the net profits that I had that I could have taken as income were spent on flights, accommodation, travel, and masterminding. And all for me to go in and strategically find out who's who, and like, who's who, what do they do, why are they good, what are they the freaking best at, and then how can I get in with them?
Exactly. Good job.
So, yeah, that was a tough one. I love that you mentioned Kent, because Kent is, if anyone doesn't know Kent Clothier, I highly suggest you look up to him and look into him. That man at the age of 30 years old ran a business that did $1.8 billion in 1 year.
Oh, I didn't know that. I better start studying him, not just following him.
Yeah, no, he is a phenom of a human being. And the cool thing is, what I quickly found is this: growing up in the hood, you kind of have this projected mindset of what these people are going to be like. And we typically, I'm sorry guys, this is not to be racially motivated, but the ghetto teaches you a certain way, especially if you are colored at all. They teach you that the rich white guy is your enemy. And it's funny because every time I got into these rooms, it's usually the rich white guy that was the first one to look after me. And so guys like Kent, guys like Robert Wensley, who's the owner and founder of Investor Lift, phenomenal human being, phenomenal friend of mine. And all of these guys, once they know that you are genuine and authentic and you're not there just to take their ideas and take their money, because a lot of them, like, let's be honest, they're massive earners. They're famous. People flock to them because people want to take from them. But once they sense that you just actually are there with genuine reason, good faith, and you care about them as a human being, they will pour into you just like we pour into each other.
Nice.
And the cool thing is one person, Robert Wensley himself, has opened up so many damn doors for me. He opened up doors to people who were making millions of dollars a month. He opened doors to He's the one who sent me to Tiffany and Josh High, and they're some of my mentors right now in business. And if it wasn't for Tiffany and Josh, I wouldn't be doing near what I'm doing right now. But yeah, so without belaboring that too much, continued mentorship and masterminding and proximity. Like when they say proximity is power, it's true. And here's a critical thing, and people are going to hate me for this, but I stand by this. I was not good enough to be a Division I tennis player. I had to go the walk-on route because I started tennis really late in life. Most people start when they're about 6 to 8. I started tennis when I was 15.
Because you were busy playing computer games.
Xbox, okay. I'm just kidding. Yeah, exactly. So it's a really important thing to understand that, and this all goes to saying this. I vehemently hate, I don't hate a lot of things. I vehemently hate the fallacy of battle buddies.
You don't like battle buddies?
I hate them. I know, and here's why.
What?
So
What
battle
are
buddy.
you doing? I'm going to cut you off.
Well,
Oh,
here's the thing.
now we're
So
going to battle. Come on. You said
exactly. I can't fight Effie. I would lose. But the thing is,
Why?
battle buddies they were created by it's a military complex, right?
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. So the military is amazing at creating teams, but it's also really, really, really amazing at psychologically keeping people in roles that you needed them to be in and keeping them in a box. It's the best in the world at it, especially the US military. The battle buddy system is geared at one thing and one thing only, and that's what happens. This is such an easy thing. People will get this. Humans, we grow through osmosis by default. Don't believe me? Take a child, put a child in Nazi Germany during the Holocaust, make them white with blonde hair and blue eyes. They will turn out maybe a less than savory human being.
Right.
Put that same kid in the middle of modern day Texas, and the kid's gonna probably like dirt biking and Coors Light cans, I'm assuming, and something to that effect, and Luke Bryan or something to that effect. And we learn through osmosis. We live through osmosis.
Yeah.
And here's the reality. You know, they say that you're the average of the 5 people around you.
Yeah.
I take that to heart when I really think about it, and I hate the battle buddy system because we all need to learn. We all need to learn.
Of course.
But when we all of our time learning information and then talking to someone who's at the exact same level happening is we grow inches. So when I look at any athlete out there, when any athlete wants to get better and better and better, they all do one thing. They go find the best damn guy around. I didn't get onto a collegiate Division I tennis team by training with people who were at my level. Why? Because my level sucked and I wasn't good enough to be on the team. So if I wanted to be at the level of the team, I need to surround myself with those guys. So for 2.5 years straight, I trained with those guys, people who had achieved amazing things in the sport. And what it did is it compressed my time in evolution. I like having friends. I like having some level of accountability.
You consider them your battle buddies?
I think the phraseology and the framing of battle buddies to this day, and especially in entrepreneurship, is go find someone who's in the same boat as you right now. And the problem with that is that person probably doesn't have the skill sets that you need to exponentially grow. So to this point,
okay,
I'll ask you this, or I'll indicate this. Look at the people that we look up to. Look at the people that we all look up to, our role models, right? Guys like Pace, guys like Hermosi, guys like all these giants of industry, right?
Yep.
They don't spend their time hanging out with people that are at their same level. When they want to grow, they go and find people who are 10 rings higher than them and do everything they can to put as much emotional, mental, spiritual capacity into that relationship as possible. I think that right now there is an overemphasis. I like in general the idea of having an accountability partner, a friend who's at your level, and it's like having good camaraderie and a friendship. I'm cool with that. I think there's an overemphasis on it where all we do is we hang out with people who are at the same level. And now what you have is you have 10 beginners talking about why they're all beginners. Swap out those 10 beginners, that same time that you would have spent with them, do everything in your power to get around someone who's making 100 times more than you. And I swear to you, you will compress time. It is the only reason that I've compressed time the way that I have, is just because I've been conscious of that. It
Well,
is.
then what are you doing hanging out with me?
Oh, you bring, this is Logan. Logan, I love
Logan
Logan.
made you come?
Well, Logan, no, he told me this. He taught me a really important lesson in life. He's not just a big brother and a best friend, but he's like this weird kind of Yoda figure to me sometimes, a really buff Yoda figure. And he said that, because I asked him, I was like, dude, what are you doing with me? Like, why are you like pouring into me? Like, you make so much money, you make more, you drive all these flashy cars. What the hell's going on? And he's like, Sam, I'm digging a well with you. I'm like, what do you mean? And then he has this phrase, digging a well with you before I get thirsty.
Oh.
At some day there will be a drought, and what I do is I dig wells with people that I want to invest in. And so it's not just enough, like, and people are going to take this way too literally, and they're going to like cut out every friend they have in life, which is, I would like to see how that goes. Actually, 90 days later, hit me up.
So, digging a well with you before a drought?
Digging a well with you before I get thirsty.
Or before I get thirsty? Okay.
It's a good one, and it was a paradigm shift for me to understand that not all relationships are truly transactional, and the framing of it is very long term. And what you do when you do that, guess what? You are making a long term investment in another human being. And it's because, right, in business right now, I may be past a certain amount of people, but it doesn't mean you're not going to fly right by me. It doesn't mean that you don't unlock some other form of business and you 10x my income overnight. Very possible. And then so what we do is we make long-term investments in human beings.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I got you. Well, that is an interesting thing, because I have an accountability group, and I'm calling them my battle buddies, and none of them are here right now. But no, Benjamin is, and so is Josh. But I kind of feel like um, our job is to kick each other's ass and to move as fast as we can. And it's not like everybody has to stop if somebody decides that, no, I'm too tired, I don't want to try it, I'm done. They have to do the work, otherwise they're filtered. But I honestly see it as a plus. I see it as a plus.
And everyone I feel needs something different, right? If you look at me, it's funny, Marlon.
Mhm.
If you talk to me and you talk to Marlon, we are two polar opposite human beings. Other than the fact that we're two extremely good-looking brown guys, we are very much different in how we view the world. He is mindset Marlon. I generally hate the term mindset. I care more about discipline and work ethic. I don't really care about mindset. So
Okay.
it's an interesting difference. I think that everyone's a little bit different. Everyone needs something a little bit different. I do think that right now, as beings and peers, we grow through osmosis and we learn through osmosis. And so my take is, place all of your mental potency, all of your energy, not on your battle buddies, respectfully, but on getting into rooms of people who are making $1 million a month. And then what I see, and I do everything just through like observing the ecosystem and seeing who does what and how it pays, right? And how it works out. The people I see that all they do is they focus on doing that, and that's where their mental capacity goes. They're the ones who exponentially grow. And one of my really good
That
friends,
does make sense. It does make sense, even though it seems it's a little bit selfish. But
100%. And this is one of those things where I'm having, and this is the reality, guys, Effie, you especially, you are, in my opinion, probably a little too amazingly sweet. And it's because you're such a caring, nurturing human being, right? And it's one of those things where I've had to struggle with this because I've been a leader, and I've always been a leader in the things that I do. And naturally, you want to lead everyone who needs help around you. Well, you can't pour from an empty cup. And the
no,
reality is,
no, I'm not. No, I'm a hard ass. I'm a hard ass in many ways. Trust me on that. But I believe in synergy. And wait, Joel says that you're his battle buddy. Are you?
I'll take that. I'll take that. Joel's someone I would be a battle buddy with for sure.
Okay. All right. And I think Julie said she wants to be in there too.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
Awesome. Anyhow, that is an interesting way of viewing it. And, I'll think on it, but not.
I'll say this. I'll
Okay.
say
So
this.
here's my thought.
Mhm.
I honestly intend to work very difficult and very hard, and I expect everybody else to, who are my battle buddies. But you have given me some food for thinking that I should try my best to get into the room with people who are making way more than me right now. And I think I'm going to see if I can do that at the same time.
It's a very interesting thing. I think one, everyone just needs to have clarity and understanding, like the self-awareness of just understanding what you need to succeed, what you need to grow, right?
Hmm.
I've just identified that for me in my trend line of life, right? As a tennis player, I had to compete against people who were astronomically better than me to get to their level and compress a lot of experience in a short amount of time.
Right.
In the industry that I was in before this, I had to go to academies and we were trained by some of the best in the world. And that exposure, right? We had our battle buddies, sure, but the reality is we were being groomed by the best in the world. I get into the real estate space. That's the immediate thing I do. And here's what I'm increasingly seeing as I grow as an entrepreneur and I grow as a business owner into other circles. When I start hanging around with a lot of these guys who are making a couple 7 figures a year, coming up on 8 figures a year, they become silent to the world. And it was an interesting thing because where you and I are both in a community right now that stresses community, and that's beautiful and it matters. The interesting thing is that there will be a time where what you need is community. Then there will be a season where what you need is tactics. Then a season where what you need is higher level proximity to a select few human beings. So it's understanding the season that you're in. It's understanding to not get caught in a season longer than you need to. I think that's something that people fall into. Complacency. As humans, we default to things that are comfortable.
Mhm.
But that being said, when I look at these guys who are doing 5 to 10 million a year right now, and I'm like, what are they doing to get to the next level, to grow? They're not hanging around with other guys who make 5 to 10 million. I may get their time once a week if I reach out, right? I may get their time and their insight, but where does their emotional capacity go, right? It's so funny. I love this. I think as an entrepreneur, time is not the most important resource. I think attention is your most important resource.
Mhm.
The reality is we waste our time away. We waste our time away. We're horrible at it. We have 24 hours in a day, and most of us work probably truly 2 to 4 hours a day at best of real work.
Mhm.
And then we're really lazy on the weekends. This is just true. What actually matters is not where your time goes, it's where your attention goes.
Mhm.
And so for me, I'm trying to have as much emphasis as possible on placing my units of attention on the things that give me the highest leverage. Because here's the thing, I love everybody around me. I love them all. The people who are brand new and the people who are just getting started and they want to know everything. Like, I love everyone. I want everyone to win. It would disserve you if I spent all of my time serving you.
Yep. I understand.
And so that's a really critical thing. And it's interesting, right? Tig says it, energy flows where attention goes.
Exactly.
Yeah, but we're getting some higher level mastermind stuff right now.
Totally. Totally. And
Yeah.
we also are kind of past our time. And I know I had told you an hour, so I don't want to keep you too long, but I do.
I'm good. If you want to go, like I'm good to go. I'm
All
just
right. Are we good to stay, guys? Let me know in the chat.
Yeah, I
Or
canceled everything I had just for this, by the way. So I'm
I really appreciate the fact that you drove, to get here, and I appreciate that very, very much. So we have please and yes, and what was that first mastermind? Well, I think you should have been here then, girl.
Yeah, if you guys are for the people who are going to be at community camp, if this is ringing true with you, just wait till we're going to have our mastermind day, which I think now is also going to be like somewhat of a watch party too for for some Paces stuff. Um,
Good.
I'm
Good.
going to go ham there. I already know what we're going to talk about. And it's going to be like, this is very high level, like inspiration, motivation, things like that, mindset stuff. I
Mhm.
think that that day is going to be heavy tactics oriented on like forcing you to make money, which is going to be fun.
That will be because you have a couple of different vehicles that you're using, to do that. And I'm curious as to if you could touch a little bit on how you built a team.
Oh, oh, that's so good. That's
Because
so
it
good.
does require, understanding where you're going to go and understanding people. And you have great people skills with your past background. You kind of had to, but it's something that I think many people think on. Like how do you just decide who you're going to partner with? And the truth is that my battle buddies chose me. Everybody started yelling, I want to be your battle buddy. I want to be your battle buddy. I was like, shit. Okay, we're all battle buddies. And Julie, you came along about 2 hours later, and they were like, no more, because
I
we were
love
at
it.
8, I think, or 9.
Well,
Anyhow,
it's because you're magnetic.
but you want
You're a magnetic human being. People want to be around you. So I can understand that. Like the reality is, just so you guys know, the only reason I hate battle buddies is because I put an application to be Effie's battle buddy and she rejected it. So it's the only reason I hate the whole system.
because he wouldn't leave his sword at home. He was
I
going to
know
bring his sword.
it's here. Uh, it but I love it. So building a team. So I love that. So we'd been doing some six-figure months, like back to back. They were happening, and I was basically forcing them to happen. We had like a 120 month, a 130 month, a 150 month. We're doing okay.
Nice.
But the reality is I was so heavily involved and I had an extremely high paying job. And I realized that this is not the life that I wanted to live. Right. And so I understood that I needed to go and build a team. I needed to automate. But here's the thing. I've never built SOPs and I've never actually interviewed people and understood how to hire, like the psychology of that, right? Like there's a lot of moving parts there. So what I did is I reached out to one of my great friends on earth, is Robert Wensley, the owner of Investor Lift. And I said, Robert, like this is the problem that I'm having, man. Like I need a team. Like I'm an extremely high performer on my own, but on my own, I can only go to 150. I can only, if I want to hit 1 million a month, I need more than me. I need leverage. And so he goes and inserts Tiffany and Josh I. And he says, Sam, I've got all the data in the world. He owns a platform that basically aggregates the greatest amount of data in the wholesale industry. And he's proven by the numbers that they have the most effective in revenue, like the actual monetary return. They can prove that they've got the most effective program out there for scaling. And I went to her and I said, Tiff, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is how much I make. I need your help. And then she had it all built out to the point where if you've never built SOPs, you get her SOPs. If you've never interviewed before, you get her interview, all this type of stuff. So, and because I don't want to push anyone to going and making a significant financial investment in something, I had to make a choice between three things at the time. One is that I go and do what I personally don't recommend, but if this is for you, this is for you. I had all the knowledge up here. I had to get it explicitly out on something else, on computers, on Google Drives, on spreadsheets, on all these things. Because when an issue came up, right, I can't be the person being asked for it because then I'm not removing myself from the business, right? A business is not a business until every process and system is explicitly written down. And I understood that it would take me 3 to 4 months to do it. It would cost me an opportunity cost, hundreds of thousands of dollars to do that because it would take me that time, right? Mm-hmm. And also, I hate that stuff. Like it would be like I would feel like I'm trying to swim upstream just to make that stuff. So that's option one. Okay. Mm-hmm. Option two is you can go hire these companies. They'll come into your business and they'll take everything you have and they'll SOP it. That's a great option, but they cost a crap ton of money. It costs a lot of money to do that. And then I'm like, great. And then I quickly saw the problem with that is that they're going to come in and SOP my business. The problem is my business only makes 150 a month, maybe. Well, I want to make 1 million a month.
You're right.
So I understood really like it was a default understanding from me. It's like, I would have to rewrite those SOPs for me to grow. It's like you've come in and you've systematized and you've processed a business doing this revenue, but I don't want this business. I want this business up here. So what I did is I just found someone. Oh yeah, Effie's amazing. Robin's got it. Effie's amazing.
Thank you.
And so I went and I found Tiffany, and she's crushing. She is, oh my God, she's crushing, and she's only getting started. And I literally went to her, I hopped on a 2-hour Zoom call with her, and then I basically tried to bribe her for her business in a box. I'm like, just what do you need? I'll give you 15 grand right now to give me your Google Drive of your documents. And she said, hell no. And so, but that is the highest level way of doing it, right? Of like figuring out how to hire a team. And you guys don't have to go do this. You do not have to go do this. And if you want to go do that, talk to me first, because I don't want you guys spending money that you're not ready to spend. But to that process of like, how do we actually build out a team now that I have these systems, these processes? It's actually really interesting. And it's actually a lot simpler than people make it out to be. We all want to make money like a Fortune 500 company makes. Why don't we hire the same way they hire? I used to work in the federal government, and I had top secret clearance, and I had to go through 2 psychological evaluations. I had to go through 2 polygraphs. I had to go through a physical fitness exam. Guys, you don't have to do that to come work for me. I'm not doing that. It's too much work for me to try to facilitate.
You do have to work for me, though.
Oh, absolutely. For Effie, yeah, guys, 3 polygraphs. And I was like, I realized that I'd come from this industry where that was the cost of finding the greatest talent in the country.
Right.
And I come here and I say I want to make $1 million a month, and all I do is jump on one phone call with you and hire you on good vibes. We do it all wrong sometimes in this industry. And so now the process is a lot more business oriented. If you want to come and work for me, you actually don't come talk to me. You actually have to go and apply to our ongoing Indeed job posting, and then it will take you through a funnel. And if you get through that funnel, you will then have to go through a series of 3 separate interviews. One is a preliminary phone call, then there is a Zoom interview with the individual rep, and then there is a Zoom interview with executive leadership. If you do that and you pass all 3 of those, and trust me, we disqualify 95% of our candidates through that process. If you get through all of that, you will then not be trained by me or my team. You then go to Kajabi for 4 days. Because we hired you on Indeed, I'm assuming you don't know anything about real estate. So we have to send you to real estate school and sales school. So you actually go into formal training like a real freaking business for 4 days. Then you come back. Now you're ready to maybe get on the phones. And then we actually have like a whole delegatable system and a full-fledged like SOP manual where every task, every job, the simplest things, from how to dial a lead, how to enter an Excel sheet into the system.
It's a question that, you don't want to have to explain it. You want them to be able to find the answer. That's
exactly. And people, they underrate like how important this is. Mm-hmm. Effie, what is the biggest, largest fast food chain in the history of mankind?
I'd say McDonald's after Coca-Cola, but they're not food; they're just a drink.
Yeah. So for fast food chains, it's McDonald's by far. Mm-hmm. They're the best, they're the biggest, they're the greatest, right? Chick-fil-A is outperforming them per capita, but they're the biggest one ever. Every McDonald's, by their franchise law, every location on earth has to have an infographic laminated in the bathroom with a 3-step process showing you how to wash your hands.
And I'm glad they do.
Exactly. And if the greatest corporation, one of the greatest corporations in the world, knows that that's how you need to make it that simply dumb, we need to do the same thing in our businesses.
Yeah.
The question is, who's going to do the build out for it? Is it going to be you, or do you hire it out?
That's a lot. Well, I'm impressed that Tiffany didn't just give you the, access to the box, so to speak.
Oh, I paid her a lot more money in the end. So
she got access. She get more. She knew she.
Yeah, she got more out of me. I love her though. But here's the thing, guys. That's the logistical side of business, right? It's funny. I like to say the business side of the business. people forget there is a business side of the business.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and but the next important part is culture. Culture overwrites all. Culture is the most important thing. So if you want to come work for me, I have one of three critical requirements. You have to meet one of these three in any sales or acquisition capacity. And there's several reasons why. We're not going to get into it too much right now, but you have to be either former military, former law enforcement, or a former collegiate or professional athlete.
Seriously?
Yep. Yep. There
Okay.
is all three of those have a cultural way of training their people.
Yeah.
Cultural way of training their people, and they are all process oriented, right? They're results driven, but they are process oriented. They are the team first. Everything is done as a team. The collective comes first. And we have, like, I think Tig is here, or she was here. Tig is on my DTA team, which is like this really cool, fun, gigantic project that we're innovating with. And we have a mission there. And like our mission statement literally is mission first, then team, then me. And the three entities, the three like organizations or sectors that crush that training capacity
Yep.
are military, law enforcement, and collegiate or former professional athletes.
Mhm.
And what we do then is we find people who are team oriented. They obey a chain of command. That's so
Yeah.
critical to leadership and delegation. And then most importantly, I want people who actually go to bat for each other.
Yeah.
Once you do that, everything becomes so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Wow. That's amazing. I didn't realize that you were that selective. That's amazing.
Oh
Wow.
yeah, that's a minimum qualification to get through the door.
Cool. Cool. Wow. There's so much more I can learn from you, boy.
Not much, not much,
Not much.
not much at
Well,
all.
somebody earlier had said we need to get you a wife. I don't know. Should we be asking Pace to get you and Kevin both like to get like I know he's working on getting Kevin a wife.
Oh, Kevin needs it. Kevin, I feel Kevin needs it. He's got the new house. I feel like a wife will really take him to the next level. You know, I feel like he's gonna stop wearing like athletic shorts everywhere with high rise socks. I think that he'll, step up. I love Kevin. I can't wait to see that happen.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So maybe we should do the same with you. Before we go any further, there's
mhm.
something that's really important I want to ask you about. Again, we're doing a bit of a pivot here, and that is I'd like to know a little bit about the pups. Tell me about the dogs.
Oh,
Uh,
the pups. Oh,
pups.
freaking amazing.
Did you have dogs growing up? And tell us about the ones that you have now.
Oh, I love this. For anyone that doesn't know, some of you guys know. Joel probably knows this. Tig knows this. Like, my dogs mean everything to me. Like,
Good.
literally, in my people, like they travel. You want to get back home to the wife. I travel and I miss Ace. That's really it. Like, I have left. This is gonna sound so bad, and I probably left a lot of opportunity on the table. I had an event where I was with, I'm not going to say their name because they don't want it to be very out there. This person is one of the biggest names in our industry. And I got invited to this retreat over the weekend. And then it was an amazing opportunity for me to level up in my proximity. It was like a 3-day thing. And then day 2, I just really missed my dog. I really missed my dog. And then I looked at the room and I'm like, you know what? I met him. Do I need to be here? And then so I think it's called like the Irish goodbye or something where you just kind of sneak away. And then like literally the next day they're like, "Hey, what happened to you? Like, did you like have a hangover and you just like died in the hotel or something? Like, what happened?" And like I'm like, "Oh no, I'm back home. I actually got on a plane last night." They're like, "Wait a minute, what?" I'm like, "Dude, I just missed my dog." And so yes, I had a series of pups when I was a little kid, and it had the greatest impact on me because it made me care for something. I love this is so dope. I love that we're getting into this. Gandhi is one of my heroes. Gandhi is someone I absolutely love. Mohandas K. Gandhi or Mahatma Gandhi. He was alive at the time that the Holocaust was happening, and while Hitler was doing all the stupid shit he was doing, and he had this saying, and I don't know if you know this, but Gandhi actually wrote a letter to Hitler,
Oh my
pleading with
God,
him
I did
to
not know that.
yeah, it's a very, and if everyone should go read it, it's very powerful. He basically wrote him a letter, like not begging him to stop, but trying to enlighten him and have like another level of enlightenment. But Gandhi had this saying, and he said that in any point in history, we will look back and be able to judge the value of society not based on how it treats other people, each other, but how we treat animals.
Mm.
And so, that being said, and his point of it, and he was obviously vegan and all this kind of stuff, and I'm not, but his point of it is how you
I'm
treat any.
not.
I'm not that enlightened. Um, his point of it is that you know the quality of someone's soul based on how they treat a soul that can't fight back or can't talk back, and there may not be repercussions. And this is the law of integrity. It's, do you do the right thing when no one's looking, right?
Mhm.
This is the critical law of integrity. So when I was a little kid, it taught me to
Whoops, you froze on us. Oh dear.
one, care for these animals that were actually oh, we just disappeared for a sec. Okay. I didn't have pups. And then senior year of high school, I pleaded with my mom. And I begged her. And when I say begged, I mean I annoyed the hell out of her relentlessly every single day uh, to let me have a pup. And that pup, his name is Ace. He's still here with me to this day. He's 9 years old. He is my son. I gave him birth. That's what I tell people. And he is an amazing giant breed dog. He is I'm about 6 feet tall. He's, when he stands up like full fledged, he's about 6'2". He,
Wow.
yeah,
What
he's
kind of
huge.
what kind of a dog is he?
So he's a Great Pyrenees mix.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, so he's a gigantic dog. He looks like a ginormous wolf. I have him, and then for the longest time, I was like, you know what, Ace needs a sister, and so we went. And I live in California, and it's technically illegal for me to. I should not have said that. It's whatever. Who cares? In California, you're actually not allowed to have wolf dogs. They are completely illegal to have here.
Oh, that's interesting. You have a wolf dog?
I Ace's little sister, her name is Lily. She is a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous wolf dog. And she is primal and scary and elegant and sometimes wild. But she's amazing. That's her. And I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm good. I got these two
Yeah.
pups.
Where did you get her?
I paid a farmer on the edge of the Sierra Nevada mountains an obscene amount of money because his guard dog, which was a beautiful, gorgeous Alaskan Malamute, liked to get really friendly with one of the local wolves that would come down from the mountains. Yeah. So so that's the story of Lily. Lily's amazing, and it was I was like, I'm good. I've got Ace, I've got Lily, we got the brother and the sister. Perfect. I'm done. Literally 2 months after I got her, I was driving home super late at night, and then I'm on the highway, and I see this blob, and I'm like, oh crap, it's a dead dog on the highway, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm probably just gonna swerve around it. And then I noticed it picked its head up,
Oh.
and I was like, shit.
Yeah.
And I remember, and that wasn't like shit. Like I hope it's okay. That was shit because like I knew in my mind, I'm like, Sam, you know you can't help it. And I'm like, so thank God it was like 2 a.m. There's no one on the road. I pull over, and this is like on a 4-lane freeway, probably like 4 or 5 lanes. And I pull over, and then I roll down my window just to like get a better look at her. She sprints over and jumps in the car.
Well, she wasn't
And
that small then. She must have been a little
oh,
bit.
she's big. She's compared to Ace, she's tiny. She is a border collie mix from what we can gather, but she's mostly border collie. And the cool thing is this. Actually, it's not the cool thing. Actually, no, screw this. When you and I were at Mastermind in November,
Yeah.
I was trying to rehome her.
Oh, I recall that. I
Yeah.
recall.
I was trying to rehome her. I'm like, guys, I got 2 dogs. I'm busy. What I do not have time for this dog, and I couldn't find another place for her. And because I was so busy in my business, because I hadn't automated my business quite enough yet, I couldn't put the time in to find her a new home. 3 months later, I'm like, "You're still here," and she's like, "Yep." And the rest is history. So now I have 3 dogs and no more. No, I'm done.
So did Ace and Lily get along with, what did you call the pup that jumped in?
Daisy.
Daisy. Did they get
She's such a
along
Daisy.
with Daisy right away?
Oh, Ace mildly annoyed with Lily. Mildly annoyed. She imprinted on him really, really, really fast, and so she is in love with him. And then Daisy came, and then I'll never forget it. He looked at me like, "Are you fucking serious? Another one?" Like he was not okay with it. But now they're all inseparable. It's amazing.
That's
They both look to him. The two girls look to Ace as big brother, and they just kind of follow his lead all day. So it's a blessing, and they teach me a lot of good lessons. I think that animals and dogs in general, like they're so freaking pure,
I know. I know.
and it's so cool. Like Dan Fleischman, who I'm sure you know, Dan Fleischman. He's well regarded, for anyone that doesn't know, in the world of entrepreneurialism. He's well regarded as the most connected man on earth. This man routinely, like all he does, his battle buddies are gajillionaires, right? Like all he does is hang out with these people, and he's living. Yeah, so yeah, she was on, I don't know how the hell she got on the middle of the freeway, and she was petrified. She was a little beat up, she was dirty, but she was terrified, and it was fear that was keeping her in that location.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, if I didn't stop, I think she would have stayed frozen until someone hit her.
Yeah,
Um,
probably.
and so, but she's great now. She is the sweetest dog I've ever met. But back to Dan. Dan's this gajillionaire who hangs out with, the biggest and best players in the world. Dan Fleischman right now runs an animal sanctuary. I don't think he makes any money on it. I think it's a nonprofit. And it was super interesting. He and Pace were, along with other people, were going to meet a former president of the United States and a bunch of political, really high level figures. And they left the event, and Dan Fleischman kicked the Uber driver off of the driver's seat so he could drive and speed down the highway, because after he had just met a former freaking president of the United States, his mind was, I need to get back home to my sanctuary because they were trying to rescue a hippopotamus. And I'm like,
where is
that's it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. I get it. Where is his sanctuary that he was driving?
It's in LA. I believe it's in LA. I believe it's in LA. It's not, I say LA, I mean SoCal, because I believe he lives near like the San Diego La Jolla area. And like stuff like that is, yeah, people may know you as a billionaire and you hang out with Elon Musk and you're, one of the biggest names in the industry, but it's like, are you doing stuff that actually matters?
Yeah.
Like, are you rescuing a hippopotamus or not? Like that's what I see that, and I'm like, it's cool seeing someone doing what I say I want to do, because it makes it real.
I think you should get close to him.
Oh, I have a 42-step master plan already in the works. I'm telling you guys, within the next 2 years, you guys are going to see me and Dan Fleischman like going around Disneyland together.
Awesome. Well, if I can help in any way, let me know, because I would be happy to.
Oh yeah, we just have to get you to Disneyland. I mean, that's the reality of it.
Oh my gosh. Well, I really, 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 really want to say thank you very, very much. I've had so much fun, and I can see that the people, you know, Fiona the hippo in Ohio, that's so cool, Tigger. Our viewers are very grateful. I want to say thank you so much. And what have we got here, Carl? Okay, he wants an elephant sanctuary. Okay, interesting. Yeah, Melissa thinks you should meet him. Well, I want to say thank you guys very, very much. I think I'm going to have Sam again, maybe when he's with Dan, and Dan can come on with them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, easy. We'll rescue a hippopotamus live. Like we'll do the whole thing. We'll do all the things.
How much fun would that be?
Oh, see, That's just it. Like, guys, making money is fine and all. And like, we could have spent this entire time talking about business and money, and yeah, sure. But it's
Yeah,
like, it's just more fun to talk about the idea of like going and doing funner stuff. And
right.
like, that would be cool. That would be cool. Just wait, because one of these days, when I achieve Batman level, then what's gonna happen is I'm gonna be like live streaming on a podcast, like while I'm like fighting cartels and stuff. Like, hey guys, this is what we did in our business last month, but just hold up, let me go beat
Yeah,
up some bad guys.
exactly.
This is
Exactly.
it. This is all we do.
Ab-
But no, Effie, thank you so much. Like this
You're
means a
very
lot to
welcome.
me.
Please do not leave. Stay into the studio
Mhm.
just for a few minutes afterwards. And for now, guys, I'm going to say thank you for staying with us for as long as you did. And don't forget to subscribe. I always forget to say this, so I'm so happy I remembered now. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Thank you.